Welcome to the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals meeting Tuesday, June 11th. It's a hybrid meeting. If you're dialing in on a phone, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Everyone's here tonight, so we don't have to do a roll call. We're going to take one thing out of order since we have some audience here. We're going to take the Shanley extension, 2416. The petitioner requests to continue his hearing to August 13th, 2024. Do some of you want to speak on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You know what, if you could grab come first, sit right up here at the mic, because they can't hear you in the audience. Is this good?
Brian, we're having a tough time hearing you too.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm Mike Brown. I live at 288 Holly Road. My wife Julie is on Zoom right now. She's on a work trip and couldn't be here. But I'm here to voice opposition to another continuance of this matter. I just have a couple quick comments and then a question. And basically I think this is the third time this has been continued. It's been out for like 5 months. And every time it comes up to have a meeting, me and my wife prepare for it, and it's stressful, and then we find out the Friday before that it's going to be continued, and so it's frustrating. And then, I guess the last continuance was a couple months, and I understand it was to provide the petitioner time to prepare and his attorney to prepare, and so I don't understand why there's another month continuance on it. And it just seems like it's just a delay. And then my question is, I think we're at 130 plus days on this since original, and so Mass General Law has a 100-day limit unless there's a written agreement to extend. And so my question is there a written agreement, and what is it, and when can we expect, as abutting neighbors, a resolution to this matter?
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there a written agreement?
I believe there is, to extend.
I don't know that there is. If there was a request for an extension, do you have a written request for extension?
Yeah, they sent an email. And
Oh, the
there's also
attorney
an
did, right?
extension agreement, too.
Yeah.
Are there terms to it, like one more month and that's it, or how does this work?
They just have to ask for extension of time.
So it could happen again?
Well, yeah, that's how it works.
We just had one that, they've been asking for an extension for months and months and months, and he just withdrew after months and months and months, you know what I mean? Maybe they couldn't find enough evidence to win their case, but they wanted to just keep pushing it, but there's really, I don't think it's kind of out of our hands.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I do appreciate what you're going through, though. It's not fun.
It's going to move that petitioner's request to continue his hearing to August 13th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Does anybody else want to say?
Grover Hunzi, aye.
Brian Sullivan, no?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, no.
Jean Lee, no.
Mark Brothers, aye.
All right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, 3 to 2. What does that mean, Bob?
3 to 2 in favor is a continuance. It's 4 to 1 when it's a 5-member board and you're giving the relief.
Okay. So it's continued to
You might want to tell the applicant, though.
August 13th.
Continuances.
Yeah. Can we-
NFC. Right.
So,
Did you say Grover?
just no more continuing. This is it. Yeah.
I just ask a follow-up question. So is it a 5-member board after 4 to 1?
To grant
grant it.
relief, whether it's an appeal or a special permit or a variance, you need at least 4 members of a 5-member board to authorize the relief or grant the relief.
What about to grant the continuance?
Majority vote to continue.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 2437, Stephen and
That's
Christine's.
going to August what? I just want to.
August 13th.
13th, okay.
And that will be their,
That'll be the final one?
Right.
the final one. Yeah, I'm not voting another one, so.
So Stephen and Christine Sweeney, petitioners, are seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to remove the existing 12 by 12 structure and construct a 12-foot by 16-foot structure on the property located at 33 Breakwater Court, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel K10, 1610, and is located in the R3 district. Come on up.
Hi,
Hi. Name and address for the record.
Steve Sweeney, 33 Breakwater Court.
Go ahead.
We've been in the house 25, 26 years. We have a 12 by 12 room in the back. I thought we could replace it or fix it. Builder says, no, it's got to be replaced because of the condition. So we thought we'd extend it out to the side of the house to make it a 12 by 16 and just start over again. And that's about it.
Okay.
Still in the existing print.
Certified stamp plans. Do we have certified plans, Andrew? No, it's, well, Bob's notes said they don't, that's what I'm asking. Did you hear me?
Do we have what, Heidi, I'm sorry?
Do we have the certified stamped plans, or are they drawn out, or what?
Yeah, this is a survey done by Morse Engineering,
Okay,
a recent survey, April 12th of
sweet.
this year, showing the proposed addition with all the setbacks.
Sweet, thank you.
Any questions from
And
the
like I
board?
said, it's just a small expansion. It's basically just, they already have that porch there. They're just squaring off the house, really.
Anything from the board?
I'm good. I have
Any-
no questions.
From the audience?
Right, just everything. The reason I put in my memo about the plan, it was stamped draft, and it's not stamped by anybody, and I think it's kind of inconsequential, but the final plan, or the as-built, ought to be stamped,
Okay.
because a draft plan without a stamp is probably something that the homeowner was given, but it's not finalized.
All right.
Which means just have a
When-
stamp from the
This
company.
means when you're done, Andrew will make sure that that has a PLS stamp on it.
PLS meaning,
Professional land surveyor.
Surveyor?
Sorry.
You hired Morse
you hired
to help
Morse.
you?
Correct.
They'll just need to stamp a plan that shows
okay,
the post-construction setbacks. They'll know what to do.
okay.
All right, I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for special permit, subject to the conditions. This project will require compliance with the floodplain bylaw, a building permit, a certificate of occupancy, and a final as-built site plan, based on the finding that the applicants propose and to remove the existing 12-foot by 12-foot structure and construct a new 12-foot by 16 structure on the property located at 33 Breakwater Court, as shown on a draft site plan for a house addition dated 4/12/24 by Morse Engineering Incorporated and generally shown on a hand-drawn sketch plan, not to scale, and showing proposed addition, meets the special permit criteria of section 1012 of the bylaw. Final stamp plan from Morse Engineering. Obtain all other local and state permits and approvals. Addition not closer to the lot line than the existing structure, excluding deck. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Close the hearing.
Done? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Did we close it? Did we close it?
Did I close it, Nancy, or not?
I think so.
All right.
You can close it if you want to take a confirmatory vote.
All right, I'd like to close 2437 and take a confirmatory vote.
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Okay, 2438, Claudia's Cube. Are you online? The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct an 8x8 mudroom on the property located at 97 Foster Avenue, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L091707. It's located in the R3 zoning district. Is there anyone here for this, Andrew? Nancy? All right, so let's move on to 2439, Frozen 4 Corporation. The petitioner is seeking a site plan modification in accordance with 305-1202 of the special permit modification under 305-1010 and 305-1206, and a variance under 305-1011 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to allow the applicant to conduct 3 single-day events with vendors and food trucks and delineate the use of the front parking lot and patio area on the property located at 985 Plain Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel C100205A and is located in the I-1 zoning district in a water resource protection district. Go ahead, name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Attorney Steve Gard, Washington Street, Hanover. With me this evening is Ben Verga, a principal of Frozen 4, and online we have David Morgan, the CEO of Bud & Mary's, which operates South Shore Buds. As you know, the South Shore Buds was approved several years ago as an adult cannabis dispensary. Since that time, they have held several outdoor events, which have resulted in no incidents of any kind of issues with the neighbors or the police or anything like that. They've been very successful. So the application this evening, well, let me back up. For those events, we have been able to obtain outdoor entertainment permits through the Board of Selectmen. And since then, we've been advised that the special permit would need to be modified if we wanted to continue to do outdoor activities at the site. Rest assured, the outdoor activities that have gone on in the past have complied completely with the special permit that was issued by this board, the Marshfield zoning bylaws and the Marshfield town regulations, as well as the regulations of the CCC. There's still no product sold on the property, consumed on the property, or exposed to the property during the events. All of the items that would be purchased go directly to the car. The vendors that are on the location are not cannabis. They don't sell cannabis. They sell candles and they sell different things like that. It's for local wares. I think I actually bought some microgreens from somebody at one of these events. So it's a showcase for local vendors to come and have a place that's close to Route 3, right on 139, with good exposure for them to expose their products to the public. With those vendors, there's also a few food trucks that come so people can come and enjoy themselves a snack while they're enjoying this sort of street fair type atmosphere, as well as some entertainment. Generally speaking, it's either a live entertainment, slowly amplified, or a Sonos type device that provides some background music for the event. Security is there. Obviously, the security guards rove the event, and there's extra staff on duty that day as well to make sure that everybody complies with everything. So that having been said, the application before you is to amend the special permit and the site plan to allow for the applicant to have food trucks on the premises in 3 events throughout the season through April to October. That's generally the season. Some of you may be familiar with the very famous event, the 420 event, when marijuana was legalized. That's a big event for all of the dispensaries throughout the Commonwealth to enhance their ability to put the consumer on notice and create brand awareness. In this case, we expected to have 700 or 800 people through on one of the major events, probably the 420 event, but then the other 2 are likely to be smaller events with 300 or 400 people. That's throughout the entire day. The hours of the event would be 11 to 5. It's all contained in the front parking lot and patio area. Before you, there's a plan before you that Merrill Engineering did for us that shows a very detailed layout of where the parking would be and the trucks would be and the events and how the pedestrian as well as vehicular traffic would flow throughout the site. Again, 2 or 3 permitting food trucks, maybe 20 to 25 indoor or outdoor tents for the stands and whatnot. So obviously, again, reiterate that there would be no outside display of marijuana promotional materials, no signage or anything like that that would be in violation of the CCC and the regulations in the special permit. Event security details, which a little bit higher, as you know, if you're familiar with this type of operation and you were on the board back when we got this approved, the security is insane. I think 69 cameras. How many cameras?
Yeah,
It's an insane amount of cameras that are on the property, and there's always people patrolling the area. You have to show an ID to get into the event. You have to be 21 to be on the premises at all. So people under 21 can't be in the outdoor event. You can't bring your kids to the food truck. You can't bring your kids to look at candles and T-shirts and things like that at the event. So and we would have, security guards at the exit route to assure that patrons place their purchases in their vehicles in a sealed bag. And then we'd have a security guard roving the event. No minors are allowed on the premises. No cannabis would be consumed on the premises and entirely monitored by cameras, et cetera. So as far as so that was the main request for relief today is an amendment of the site plan and an amendment of the special permit. However, we did ask for a variance should the board see fit that this is not something that would warrant a site plan or a special permit amendment as far as the use goes. I did articulate in the narrative some of the reasons that a variance might apply here. I think a special permit amendment is more apropos under these circumstances. And I also filed the Form 2C, I think it is, for the findings that would be required for a variance nonetheless. So that's the case. With me is Ben Verga. He's much more familiar with the day-to-day operations of the events as well as the day-to-day operations of the store. So if you had any questions with regard to that, I'd be happy to answer. There will be outside toilets for the people that do attend the event. Someone could come to the event and never even go in the store. It's really just to bring people together in the community, and offer something back to the community for local vendors to be able to have a place to show their wares and maybe create some new customer base. And this type of situation is not something that they perceive to be, every single weekend, it's an event. I think that it's not unlike when Buckles and Boards was there, when they would have the outdoor sale of their wares, their sidewalk sale, they'd have materials out front all the time, so they could attract customers in to come and look at the things that they have on sale or whatever. Obviously, we wouldn't have cannabis products outside. We're not advertising that. That's not the point. It's more of a, kind of a street fair type situation. I would point out that, having these types of events are not unsimilar to the Stellwagen Beer facility that is a microbrewery that has outdoor, events quite often. So does the Levitate store down in downtown, right in the center of Marshfield. They have outdoor events quite often in a much more congested area. This is in the industrial district. I don't think that we're going to be disturbing our neighbors. They're businesses, that are more industrial-like. So it certainly seems like a spot where this type of outdoor entertainment would be, pretty innocuous for the surrounding neighborhood. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it.
Okay.
Anything from the board?
You don't meet the standard for the granting of a variance, so the question is, in my mind, from my perspective, I only speak for myself, is can your special permit be amended to allow for these 3 events, outdoor events per year, or not? And I see that we did amend it just about a year ago, which I remember. I wasn't on the board for the initial decision, but I see it was just about a year ago that we amended it the last time. And, personally, I'm all in favor of supporting local business. I'm not a customer of this or any other dispensary anywhere in the world, but I think it's a good addition to the town of Marshfield. And I just, I don't know. I guess it's my reaction that I'm opposed to this. I need to articulate it better, other than my inclination is to say, I think, Marshfield Fairgrounds would be a better location for an event like this, or 3 events like this versus your retail establishment. Would we allow the same thing at Blanchard's? Or I don't know any other Packies in Marshfield. But, I don't know. I've got to think about it a little bit more. Well,
I think we absolutely
my,
would
my
allow it at
colleagues,
Blanchard's.
my colleagues
I don't.
deliberate.
So I
was
think-
on
I
the
think-
original board that
Yeah, I know.
for this, and we were pretty clear that everything that happened on that property was to stay inside. I even questioned the select board when they did allow the events that they did allow, because it was very clear in your permit that you were not allowed to have things outside. So I am not in agreement with it because I don't feel it's necessary. I don't think it's the right place for it. My office is right across the street. Not that I care, because I go there once a year, but I don't know that it's the right place for it. I don't think it's appropriate when you're coming into town. The fairgrounds is a very nice place to have something like that. And Levitate is a completely different program because it's in behind it, and they have a completely different permit, so you can't reference that. I don't think that we would allow Blanchard's because that's an awful busy parking lot as well, and I don't think it's a very good area to get in and out of as well. I don't think it's allowed there, so that's a big problem for me that it's just not allowed there. I just have a hard time getting past that, and there's been no real argument to say why it should be.
If I may, when we got approved and we opened it, we're under a great deal of scrutiny because it's a dispensary and people thought they were going to lose their minds. I think we've opened and had zero issues, zero problems. I think we've done everything we can possibly do to be as good a corporate citizen as we can be. I wish that the revenues were greater so that we could do more. We've got the signalized intersection fully permitted. We've spent $700,000 on it. Unfortunately, it needs another $800,000, which we don't have. And if we did, the signalized intersection would be in. Doesn't mean it's not going to go in. I'm pretty good at chasing money, and I'm pretty unbearable, so we'll probably get it at some point. But we look at these events as a celebration of the normalization of cannabis. Cannabis is it's not the boogeyman. It's not something to be disparaged. It's not something to be ashamed of. I did the math the other day. When we had been open for 18 months, 48% of all Marshfield residents who are of legal age had attended the store at one point. I'm sure that number's gone up. I've lost interest in the math at this point. But, I think we've done a great job, and our staff loves it. I'll be honest with you, we don't make any money on the events. We lose money on the events. We're not doing this because it's a revenue driver. I think our decision initially was we don't care about the events. We're not going to do them, and our staff reacted very strongly to it because for them it's a great source of pride to be out front, wearing their gear, being in Marshfield. I think a lot of our employees have moved to Marshfield and the South Shore after we hired them. And I think they love the fact that it makes them feel like we're part of the community. I think we are part of the community. I think South Shore Buds has done an amazing job of establishing itself as kind of a beacon of what a dispensary in a small town with a lot of other towns that have banded around don't want, to do. We haven't had any issues. I think if Chief Tavares was here, he'd tell you that they've never responded, except for one time where our young employee set off the burglar alarm by mistake. Not his fault. We all make mistakes. Shockingly enough, it wasn't me. But other than that, I think it's been an incredibly positive experience since December of 2021, which I can't believe it's been that long. And I think these events are great because we often average 300 to 400 more people coming to the event than we have customers that day, which means we have 300 to 400 people who come to the site, enjoy the local businesses, see the local artists. They don't ever go in the store. So, it's not great for us. From a retail business perspective, this is stupid. But from a mission that we have about what we wanted to be for this town. I live in Duxbury. The deal I made with my wife when I started this was I wouldn't end up on the front page of the Ledger through this. We tried to do it try to live up to that. I think we have. So I think we wanted to do this, and we want to continue doing it because 3 times a year it's great for everyone to drive by and see that parking lot full, see the food trucks, see all the, countless local businesses that come and actually do make money that day with their tents. And I think it's a great source of pride for our staff. So that's the impetus behind this request. That's the motivation behind it. If you deny us tonight, it's literally going to increase the column on the revenue for the annual basis and how much money we make. So this is not a money grab in any way, shape, or form. My partner who's on the Zoom said to me when we talked about this, he's like, you realize how much money we lose every event, right? I'm like, yeah, I do. But I still think it's great. And there's people on this board that have never been in the store, but you've been to the events. Because it's a town event, and I think people love it. The amount of people that are bummed when they show up are like, yeah, you can't bring your kids. They're like, really? Like, no, you gotta be 21, and then, they're bummed. We're not gonna even get into that. We're fine with sticking with the 21, even though the amount of people under 21 I see playing cornhole just down the street, we won't even talk about. It's 3 times a year. If you wanted to only give us twice, fine. But I think when you tell the dispensary, and you single the dispensary out and say, you can't do this, but lots of other businesses can or do without asking permission ever, I have an issue with that only because I don't want to see us singled out because we're a dispensary. If the decision is because of our business, I don't think that's right. If the decision is because we are a business, that's fine. So that's my only advocacy tonight, is that yes or no vote, as long as it's based on the realities of the business and not because of what the business is, I think that's fair. That's all we can ask.
So I can speak for myself. I don't care what you are, and I'm very happy that you're doing the right thing, because you're supposed to do the right thing. When we had you come in, you said you're going to do the right thing. We're very happy that you are.
Yep.
I don't care if it's a dispensary or what it is, it doesn't matter. It's just not allowed there.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I don't care what people do in their private, I don't care who goes, who doesn't go, it doesn't matter to me. It's not in the black and white, so it doesn't matter to me. That's how I feel about it. So it's nothing personal, it's just the way we
Understood.
vote.
So I think I'd like to just respond to Brian's first reaction, which I don't think is, abnormal. I think most people have that reaction when they think about a cannabis store. Your reaction is okay. But I think when you think it through, we've abided by what Heidi's comment was, is that they had asked us to keep everything indoors. And at the time, that was the regulations. We have kept everything indoors. And during these events, everything's indoors. Nothing's outside. What outside stuff is artists. It's microgreens, it's candles, it's soap. It's not cannabis. So we have.
Steve, what are microgreens?
They're like baby vegetables that don't get all the way grown. Yeah, I don't.
It's what hippies eat.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, that's why I don't know, apparently.
Yeah, they harvest them. They harvest them before they mature, and supposedly they have more vitamins and minerals in them if you harvest them before they mature. I don't. I'm not convinced. But
Thank you, I apologize
I had to try.
for interrupting.
that's okay. But in any event, I guess what we're trying to say is that, I think cannabis is not the big bad wolf that it was made out to be when it was first legalized and the stores started to come. And I think these stores they're retail stores. And I do think that you would probably have an event at Blanchard's that, as long as they didn't sell alcohol outside and they weren't consuming alcohol, I don't see why they couldn't. If they wanted to have a kiddie pool and a petting zoo, whatever, to have families come in when they go, father goes in and mother goes in to get the, beer for the weekend, and the kids can hang out. I don't see that that's any different than this. We're on the verge of cannabis is going to be normalized. It's going to be, part of our lives, part of certain people's lives. And I respect that Brian isn't a customer, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's safe. It's not, promoting cannabis outside of the store. If you want, you go in and you can enjoy the things that we have to offer.
So I want to be clear. This is not about cannabis. I don't care if you're selling puppies. It's not what was allowed. And it's not allowed in there. And I don't believe that 300-400 people coming there for a festival with food trucks and everything else is the right thing on that road, period. But it's not allowed there. It's nothing to do with what you're selling or what you do. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not a thing.
Well,
It
it's.
doesn't matter about the pools and the puppies. That's just shading things. So that's not fair to say that it has anything to do with cannabis, because it does not. It's just not allowed.
Well, I'm not necessarily in agreement that it's not allowed. I think under the special permit, you have the authority to allow this type of,
But we didn't.
event.
We didn't allow it.
Which is why but I'm here asking you to amend that decision, Heidi. And I'm not saying you didn't allow it. If you did allow it, we wouldn't need to be here, right? So I agree
And
that you didn't allow it.
to be clear, the reason we didn't is because we were under the impression we were supposed to be getting our one-day entertainment license from the select board, as
Right.
we did. So,
And every time you asked for that permission, it was granted by the
Correct.
select board?
So why did they
302130.
transfer it over? Why did they transfer it back to us?
I have no idea.
We were talking about this
That's a
outside. We
really
really
good
don't know
reason.
why.
I have no idea.
We don't know
Bob,
why.
could you speak on this first, please?
Clarify?
Yeah, I can, because I remember the discussion coming up. The select board thought it was absolutely fine to have a grand opening celebration, and I think they let them have it once or twice more, but they made it pretty clear the last time they granted it, there weren't any other approvals coming unless there was zoning relief granted.
I'm a little different of opinion here with this. I think you've done an excellent job. The place looks great. One of the things the state did do, I think with the marijuana or cannabis, getting it right, was they went around the country, and if you go to different parts of the country, the stores look like something that I wouldn't want in my neighborhood. The state of Mass isn't like that. Your location definitely is not like that. It looks great. It's a well-run. I've gone by your location when you had the food trucks out last time. Saw no issue. I saw no issue with traffic. With all that being said, also your industry is becoming substantially more competitive than it was initially when you got your license. So you need some recognition to people coming in. I think if Blanchard's did come in and apply for something along these lines in their parking lot to have a Saturday afternoon, I could see Blanchard's getting it. You know, they wouldn't be allowed to sell alcohol in the parking lot, but I could see them getting it. I think you've been a great community partner, and I would not personally see there really being an issue with this with 3 times a year. If you're losing money, I don't know why you want to do it, but, you know, it's...
You know, it's kind of, why do you buy your kids Christmas presents, right?
The only thing that I would want to be clear is I think Heidi's right on the mark that everything is to be kept in the store. And that goes along with it not being, like you go to different states and you see the big marijuana.
Oh, yeah,
green,
no,
purples and everything, you know?
we follow the CCC guidelines to the letter.
Oh, I'm sure you do. And
Yep.
when I went by your location last time, you had the food trucks out front. You know, we noticed, we looked back and I, wow, look at that. What's going on? It was well organized, everything was lined up. You know, 139, there wasn't crashes going on out front.
Right.
It was well organized. So that's my view on it. I don't think you're way
Appreciate
out of
that.
line.
So, you raise a question, if you're losing money on it, it sounds like it's a promotional activity, and something triggered in the back of my mind that I thought in a state regulations that you were prohibited from doing type promotional activities very similar to this.
Yes, we are prohibited. That's why there's no promotion outside the store. This is just, it's a community event being hosted at our store for local businesses.
I've been a marketing consultant for over 30 years, and anytime you run an event, it's a promotional event.
Well, having people aware that we exist is obviously very good for us, and that's always the goal. But the idea is it's not if you come there and you're one of those 300 or 400 people who don't go in the store, you wouldn't know that you were at a dispensary, because the people, what we see is we have people selling golf things, we have people selling clothing, we have people selling handmade leather goods, we have artists selling whatever wares the artists make, we have a bunch of local businesses. The woman who does the IV stuff and the massages had a booth there, all that kind of stuff. And so for us, it's just about, it's promotional in the sense of having it be that we're a part of the community. In a couple of weeks, my daughter works at the Marshfield Chamber of Commerce. She just signed me up without asking me first for the Marshfield Leaders of the Year things. We're going to Hadad's to do that. And, that's a community event where everyone's going to come together to recognize the gentleman that owns Airport Pizza for being the unanimous winner for the Marshfield Businessman of the Year. And I think that, that's a great thing for his business. He's a great guy. He won because he's a great guy. But, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a great night for him, for his business. It's the same for us. We're not going to sell more cannabis than we normally would, but what we're doing is kind of creating that sense that we're a part of the community, and this is another store, another option for you to come to. So, yeah, I mean, everything's promotion, but it's not promotion of specific cannabis products.
I love your passion for the community.
I think we've talked a lot since we got here, and we've tried to back it up as much as we can.
So when I think of community, and a community event, I think of family events.
Listen,
And I have 7 kids, so that's what I think. I don't think,
we have our chief compliance officer and I have a very, very strong disagreement about the legal age required for the event. There's nothing in the regulations that says we can't have it be for all ages in the parking lot. She disagrees. I'm married to a smart woman, so I've never gotten in trouble by letting smart women tell me what to do, so I don't argue with her. I don't agree with it, but there's nothing in the Cannabis Control Commission regulations that say that you cannot be in our parking lot. It says you cannot be in our store.
so,
But we're going above and beyond that, and we're actually checking IDs to come into the event, because she feels like it's a gray enough area that we should be overly cautious and overly zealous in our pursuit of regulations.
so with all this said, and I appreciate the fact that you're coming, trying to do the right thing. I really do. And I appreciate, I know I wouldn't want to come before a board for anything, so I get it. But nothing that you're saying is a reason to grant a festival. It's just, there's nothing at a recreational marijuana, it's not. And it is a way for you to get people to come in and notice your business. It is, whether they come in that day or not, that's the reason. And a community event, like this, 300-400 people, doesn't belong there. I'm sorry. I don't believe it's the right thing, and it's just not allowed.
Also, one other thing, I think you made a good point also with Buckles and Boards did have an outside sales in the parking lot, so the previous retailer that was in there was doing,
I just drove by
Virtually
Levitate,
the
they got
same.
5 racks outside of their T-shirts.
yeah, so they were, already doing this.
No, they weren't. They weren't having food trucks. They weren't having.
Oh, yeah, they weren't having
different
food trucks,
no,
right, but-
It's not the
But
same thing at all.
didn't they have like a tent sale in the spring?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And I can't remember exactly, but I think they did one in the fall and in the spring, like to get rid of last year's stuff and then to get
Yeah.
rid of this year's stuff.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
in the
remember
back of the
exactly what they
building,
were, but
go
they
through the
did have
tent.
routinely.
No, it was in the front, I remember.
But that's
Yeah.
not what we're here for. This
Right,
is
because the
food
difference is,
trucks.
we're not selling our stuff. Buckles and Boards was actually selling the merchandise. We are looking to just have
You're
an
asking
event.
for something that's not allowed. We don't
Oh,
have food
Listen,
trucks there.
I understand your opinion, I'm not
And I
arguing.
have
I'm
no
not arguing
problem
with
with your cannabis work at all. It's not about that. It's just that it's not, if we allow everybody to do what they're not supposed to be doing, then why do we have bylaws to begin with? Why do we have any of this stuff to begin with?
Well, yeah. I've
You
already
can
said-
disagree with me, Steve, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't agree that it's
okay.
not
That's
allowed.
fine.
I just
It is
feel like
not
it
allowed.
is allowed in the sense that if
You
you
don't
see that
have
as,
it.
if you see this as an accessory use to the special permit use, then it can be allowed.
It's not,
Just-
though.
Okay.
It's just
Bob, do you
not.
have an opinion?
It's not listed as an accessory use to a retail business to have this type of an outside event.
Also I think with kind of changing the original agreement from when you went in there is that businesses evolve. Now that you've been there a couple of years, you're seeing what's going on and you're making adjustments. And again, I give you credit for even coming to this, that you went to this point, you've done a couple of them, you've done 3, gone 4, and there's been no issue, except for the fire alarm,
No, the fire alarm wasn't at the event, that was just on a Monday morning at 7 AM.
If you've already done 3 and there's been no issue with the community, there's been no issue with the fire or police department.
So, but it speaks
Just
volumes that the
evolving.
select board said, go back and get it changed, because we're not gonna do it again.
I mean,
That speaks volumes to me. Do you have a different interpretation?
I do,
I have a very
yeah, I
different
do.
interpretation.
No, I wanna hear it.
Yeah,
What's your
I
different
think that there is
interpretation?
this,
What is it?
it's hard to talk about this, because we're here before you under the zoning bylaw, but I do think there are bylaws in the town that regulate outdoor events, and that is the town bylaw, and the select board has the jurisdiction over outdoor events. And, you can go get an outdoor entertainment permit for an event at your house. If you wanted to have a wedding reception with amplified music, you're supposed to get that. We do it at the yacht club in Situate. We get, I think it's 7 of them a year. We get 7 outdoor events at the yacht club, and we get permits from the select board. Similar bylaws as the town of Marshfield. So the fact that the selectmen didn't, are pushing us back to this does seem like it doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, well, wait a minute, you have a set of regulations that control this. The select board can place conditions on the outdoor entertainment permit for us to have this type of an event, but yet now they're saying that, well, you need to have your special permit to allow these. So that would say that no one can have outdoor events anywhere in the town unless they're allowed under the zoning bylaw, right? So show me where it is allowed under the zoning bylaw, and I'd be, amazed, because it's really not, Heidi. It's not specifically delineated as outdoor events, except for, of course, maybe the fairground. Obviously, that's a different story. But, for general businesses and residences and office buildings and things like that, you go to the select board to get an outdoor entertainment permit. And that permit, you have to tell them when you're going to do it, whether you're going to have a police detail. I've done plenty of those. So, yeah, I do have an issue with the fact that now we're back before the zoning board of appeals with a request to modify the special permit when we have a perfectly good mechanism for dealing with the outdoor entertainment licenses. And so to that, I don't know what else to say. We were very successful in the outdoor entertainment licenses. They went off without an issue. We complied with any conditions that were placed upon them. And that's really the mechanism to deal with this.
This is a retail business. It's not a yacht club. It's not a cafe. It's a
But
retail business. It's
it
not
does-
the same.
It is.
Marshalls wouldn't be allowed to have like a street side sale. There would be no. It's not, you can't use that as a reference, or you can, but it doesn't make any sense, because it's not the yacht
I
club.
think the point of this, the particular point of our discussion is, if somebody wanted to, who would they ask for it?
Select board, but they have now said no. we're all done.
Well, they didn't say no. They didn't say no. They said you need to go to the zoning board of
Yeah, I see,
appeals to ask permission.
Because there's a special permit.
Yeah,
So,
they didn't say
But
no.
there
They
was
just said
always a
it's gotta
special
go to you.
permit. There was always a special permit, so they gave you the leeway 3 times, or 2 times, or whatever it was, and now it's, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I don't think it's allowed. I'm sorry. Bob, do you have anything else to add to this?
No, I think that retail businesses can get a special permit for outdoor sales, but this isn't a ordinary retail business. This is a marijuana facility that's authorized by statute and a special provision of our bylaw. And, I think the board has to decide it. I can't decide it. Is there a connection between a food truck outdoor sale thing and what happens on the inside of a building? And I think there's a potential disconnect there.
Does Andrew have anything
Oh,
to
it's
say?
gonna, Andrew, do you have anything to add, Andrew?
I mean, if the zoning board of appeals were to allow this, my only concern was that they have something more substantial than cone barriers and maybe have some concrete removable barriers for putting this thing up. But I tend to agree with Attorney Guard, quite honestly. I mean, that this is usually handled under like the one-day entertainment license or common victualler license through the select board, and I never quite understood why it was getting sent to the zoning board of appeals, because there is no use in the table of use for any kind of like outside event. I mean, even the Marshfield Fairgrounds is a non-conforming use of the property.
Bob?
So this isn't a non-conforming use. This is a use that's allowed by special permit. There's certain regulations that relate to it. And the reason they're here is because their site plan that exists there today, that the board approved in connection with the special permit, doesn't provide for outdoor activities on the site. And our bylaw actually has provisions that relate to outdoor activities and advertising. And I think that's what makes it different. And I think there are places in town where you might be able to do this. And
so as we amended their special permit a year ago to change their hours of operation, we could amend the special permit again to allow outdoor activity 365 days a year.
I don't think you can, because this business is prohibited by state law from selling anything outside the inside of its business.
Okay,
And the
Any-
product,
like anything that
but
they-
they're
that
not,
they provide,
they're
correct?
not selling anything, they're getting third parties to sell things.
which means that they're operating either a second business or a bit, it's not an accessory business to a retail place to be able to have food and entertainment.
Yeah, it's like it's a street fair.
I mean, the reason they were sent here was because the select board was okay with the grand opening and then one other or two other things, but they were, the way it was explained to me was, if it was gonna happen on a recurring basis, they needed zoning authority to do this. And it's not listed as an accessory use to a retail business. And, I think there's some provisions of the bylaw that apply too, that prohibit this. So I think if you were gonna grant it, it would have to be by a variance. And I have issues with, variance.
Would they
which
still
are
need
tough.
the one-day entertainment license, even if the permit was
They
special?
would also need a license from the select board to have.
Still need
outdoor
that license.
Wait a minute, they'd have to get, even if this was approved, they still would have to go back to the select board to
Correct.
get.
Every
So
single.
we could punt it back to them.
Yes.
Punt them flush.
The problem is, they're asking for this because the select board aren't gonna grant any more one-day licenses.
Unless they have it.
Unless they can get zoning. I mean, there's a lot of projects that come in front of you that require conservation, Board of Health approval, building inspector for floodplain, selectmen maybe for earth removal. It's just one of the things where it requires a couple of permits.
Let them do what they would do for anyone else. How is that fair?
We do have before you a site plan amendment request as well. That is in the packet. And I must say, with respect to the site plan itself, we're not changing the site plan. We just showed you where the food trucks will go and where the cones will be for the vendors and stuff. It's
Not
really.
cones, concrete barriers per Andrews
Yeah,
report.
well,
we were to
you know what I
approve
mean?
this-
That's
The
fine.
barriers.
Your filing
It
is
still has to
is
go to the
thorough.
select board.
Yeah, we're not changing the site plan in any way. We're
We
just
would have
putting
approved
stuff
this,
on the
it'd
parking
still
lot.
go to the select board?
Registered vehicles.
You would
Guys,
have
I'm
to,
sorry.
if you authorize the use, you'd have to first decide whether you can do it by special permit, or you have to grant a variance. And assuming you, and I think it's more of a variance type issue, I don't think this is in any way, shape, or form a special permit issue. Then, in addition to whatever permits you give, if it was a variance, they would also need an entertainment license from the select board.
For each event.
Each event.
Yeah.
So can you just limit the number of
I'm
events
gonna,
So it sounds like you're
on a
saying it's
special
okay with us.
variance?
should have a police officer.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
I can't do that.
Is this Russia?
Got some votes here.
So we first have to decide if it's a special permit or a variance, correct? Is that what we?
So this isn't just the site plan approval, this isn't,
It's a special, according to Attorney Guard, it's a special permit modification,
Yep. Site-
or in the alternative, a variance and site plan approval.
Right. And I disagree with town council, obviously, about whether or not the special permit can be amended to allow these 3 events on the site.
What is it you disagree with it about?
I disagree that it's not a special permit issue. I think that it's within your purview to allow the applicant to occupy its parking lot for an event like this. I do. It's their parking lot. I don't think that this is something that's disallowed. I don't think that it's obtrusive. I don't think it derogates the bylaw. I don't think it's a special privilege. I don't think it's any of those things that you worry about when you apply the bylaw. I think it can clearly be allowed with an amendment to the special permit, that the applicant can utilize its outdoor area for something like this, provided that it complies with all of the
Do you
regulations.
charge rent?
No.
Charge rent,
You
no,
invite the vendors, you invite the
Yes.
tents, you invite the food trucks, and you don't
Is there a
charge
tent?
them.
No, we actually
No.
pay, we pay the food trucks.
to come.
I didn't say I was good at business. Yeah, we make our money by the only money we make that day are the vendors that come that want to be inside the store, the cannabis vendors that want to be inside the store because it's an event. So if they come in, they want to have a pop-up table inside the store, which is allowed, we will charge them. Everyone who comes outside is free. We pay the food trucks. We actually give the food trucks a guaranteed minimum.
Right.
And then we give our staff tickets. And again, and to speak about amending the special permit, remember, we were just before this board 2 years ago where we amended our special permit to allow delivery of cannabis based out of Marshfield to local residences in town. We're talking about having food trucks twice a year. And the only reason we're here is because we couldn't be at the select board. Now we have to go back to the select board again. So, I mean, at this point, honestly, I think the zoning board of appeals should just vote and we'll deal with it after that because we've been hearing 5 different things from 5 different people about 5 different things. And we literally just want to have food trucks that we pay for so people in town can come have a hot dog or a waffle that they make into an ice cream sundae and it's delicious.
I'm gonna
But
let you
I
make
can
the
get it
motion.
somewhere else if not, because honestly,
don't
this
have
is,
one.
you know, we've kind of, I think we've gone beyond the point of no return here with the,
We really appreciate the time that
we
you
do.
took to
And it's a
deliberate on
pleasure to
this.
see everyone here every time we come, ask great questions. But I think the bottom line is we would like your permission to have food trucks a couple times a year so that we can tell everyone in town that we're there and thank everyone in town for being so welcoming and so great to us and just kind of celebrate.
You could do a mailer.
What?
You could do a mailer.
So Bob, what would we do for a motion here?
Well, again, I respect the fact that Attorney Card disagrees with me, but Section 8 says no outside displays or storage of marijuana, and they're not proposing to do that.
Right.
Related supplies
Yep.
or promotional materials are
Right.
allowed.
And there's nothing
We're
outside
not-
that promotes cannabis at all,
Right.
other than the
And-
South Shore Bud sign that is permanently affixed.
So
to the
let's
ground.
just go through
Let him talk.
the test,
Read it.
the way you analyze it. First of all, our bylaw is prohibitive. Okay, that means unless it's explicitly authorized, it's not allowed. Okay? This use is not listed as an accessory use to a retail business. So that's a problem. That's why I suggested that it's a variance. So they have to demonstrate to you that there's something unique about the soil, shape, or the topography of the lot that specifically affects this lot and not others in the district that causes the applicant a financial hardship, or a hardship, financial or otherwise. And the hardship isn't just it's going to cost them money or make them money. The hardship has to relate to the soil condition, shape, or topography of the lot And assuming you get past those, then you have to find that the intent and purpose of the bylaw is not offended or in any way derogated, and it would not be a special privilege. So those are all conjunctive, meaning they have to find, you have to find each and every one of those elements.
Well, I think any reasonable person would agree that it does not meet the standard for the granting of variance. So we're back to the special permit. You've said why it does not meet the standard for the granting of a special permit, because it is not allowed in the bylaw. Steve, what do you say to what Bob just said?
I say it's part of the business. It's part of our business to give back to the community. That was one of the commitments that we made. That's what cannabis shops are supposed to do under the host community agreement. This is
think that
part
was
of the
money.
business.
I think that was money given back to the town.
Well,
That's
yeah,
not,
we
it
know
wasn't a
that-
festival in
yeah,
the
that's-
front of the building.
that's
Well, the
Come on.
Massachusetts State Supreme
That's-
Court decided that's not.
That is,
Yeah.
that's a stretch.
Yeah.
That is a stretch.
No, but I do think that it's part of our business, and part of our business mission is to be a good corporate citizen in the community and to provide these avenues for other vendors and for the community in general. It's not, when I said accessory to this use, I probably misspoke in the literal sense that it's listed in the table of accessory uses. I know it's not. But when I say that it's accessory to our business as a function of a good corporate retailer in a neighborhood that wants to give back and wants to draw the community to their shop, I mean, I think it's hard for us to understand that corporations would actually do something that might be good for the community, that might not line their pockets. And it is hard for us to grasp that these days. But this is something that should happen. This is the type of thing that we would want in our community. That's what we want to have, this bringing together so that people can get together and congregate and chat. That's what Levitate's all about, right? I mean, the Levitate Festival and the fairgrounds and the
Which
Marshfield
had to
Fair.
move to another location to have the festival.
No,
We had
but-
to move to another location.
No, but my point is that, but I wasn't talking about the specific location, I'm just talking about the community gathering and the opportunity for people to gather and just talk. We don't get a lot of that anymore because we're on Zoom and we're on conference calls and we're stuck in our offices. We don't really get much of that. This is an opportunity for us to embrace more of that in an outdoor setting, which I don't think is prohibited in the sense that it's prohibited from the use that is there. The applicant has the right to use their parking lot. And if it is to have an event like this 3 times a year, amend the special permit, let it happen. And I'll go make the same argument to the select board, that they need to give us these outdoor entertainment permits for the same reason. It's a shame that I gotta do both, but I'll do it. That's
So
what.
your parking lot is for parking. And you're saying, but your reasoning, Brian just asked you, your reasoning is because you're helping to facilitate other businesses and that's your community job. Like, that doesn't justify why this should be here. It
3
just
times.
doesn't sell it.
But 3 times a year, Heidi? It's just 3 times a year. This is
I
not
get
every
it.
day.
I get it.
It's just
So
3
Work
events.
with us to change the bylaw. You know, work with us to change the bylaw.
happy to do
That's
that,
what needs
but-
to be done, because it's just not allowed.
Yeah, I think that you can, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I think it's within the scope of your authority to amend the special permit to allow 3 events a year for the site. I just think it's,
I know,
it's
I know.
with it,
We
yeah,
agree to disagree.
yeah.
Can we vote?
But I
Yes.
thank you for allowing me to state my argument and position.
Very imaginative thought process, though, thank you.
What's the motion?
I've done worse,
Can we
I've done worse.
to,
You can make the
change
motion.
the special permit and allow these 3 events?
Okay, it's a motion to change the special permit and allow these 3 events.
Per year.
You think
Per
about
year.
this,
For this
you
year.
do this, then a lot of people are gonna be coming to do the same thing. We're gonna have.
And we'll have to
They
have the
have
same
to go-
discussion with them.
I'm-
They have to go
That's
It's
why
to,
we're
not
here.
right,
Fine
it's
with that.
not allowed. Guys, I don't understand. The reason why we're here is because there's bylaws to guide us. We have to follow them. I'd like everybody to have a great time, and everybody to be a good neighbor, and everybody to get whatever the heck they want, but it's just, sometimes things are just not allowed. And that's where my problem is. If they were allowed, fabulous. Do whatever you want to do. Paint the sidewalk purple, I don't care. But it's just not, whether we like it or not. And they're doing a good job. They're supposed to do a good job. That's part of being a good neighbor, part of being a good business in town. You're supposed to do a good job. That's what you commit to when you come in. I'm sorry, but just like my kids, you don't get brownie points for doing the right thing. You just do it. And that's where we're at right now. They're supposed to, Larry, do the right thing, and they are, and we appreciate that.
These food trucks and this type of events are seen everywhere around. I don't see much of a difference in when they do the Oktoberfest in front of the Green Harbor General Store.
Well, they don't.
Bob Habel does that I'm
They
sorry?
don't anymore.
They don't anymore. They did it for years, and that went off without a hitch, and there was no big issues with that. I just don't see this as being a big stretch. I don't see it being a negative to the community. I don't see it being a negative to anybody. And us being the zoning board of appeals, we're here for an appeal, for making adjustments as we go along, if you will, for lack of a better terms, and I just don't see this as being a huge negative.
I just think
They
if we
wanna build a
approve
nuclear
it,
power plant
then
in
it's up to
Marshfield.
the select board to go back to their decision to
Correct.
figure out what the
Yeah.
actual, this should be under their purview, not ours.
Pretty much all we'll be doing is saying, yeah, if we allow this,
think
that
it's
we don't
theirs,
think
not
it's a
ours.
bad idea
That
for
would've been
these
my
three,
motion.
then it goes to the selectmen, and the selectmen will make that
Push it
decision.
back to them.
Oh, that's what I want.
Okay, I'll second Grover's motion.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Can someone I didn't hear the motion.
Motion's to change the special permit and allow these three events a year.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Brian Sullivan,
Do we
no?
have to justify the 10?
Ryan
reasons
Murphy,
for
aye.
special permit? Don't we have to justify the 10 reasons? Can you guys explain those to me, the 10?
Sure. Andrew, put them up there, please.
You're looking for what now?
The special permit.
Section 1010.
Section 1010, we're gonna walk
10,
through.
10?
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
All right.
I know. Read it.
Larry, do you want to go through them, you guys that agree?
I can't read anything, I can't see that far. The use, Andrew, can you,
I can read it.
okay.
The use requested is listed in the table of regulations, oh, I just changed it, as a special permit in the district for which application is made or so designated elsewhere in this bylaw.
So it's in, the special permit was requested and given.
So the requested use is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare.
No.
The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impaired pedestrian safety.
No.
The requested use will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system or any other municipal system to such an extent that the requested use or any developed use in the immediate area or in any other area of the town will be unduly subjected to hazards affecting health, safety, or the general welfare.
Next.
Any special regulations for the use set forth in Article 11 are fulfilled. The requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the district or adjoining zones, nor be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare.
Move it up, Andrew.
That just goes into how we propose the regulations.
Those are the only
Those are,
conditions.
yeah.
Those are the
Those are the only
conditions.
general conditions for this type of special permit.
All right,
Also,
so,
look at 1206.
What is it?
You also have to look at 1206.
1206?
Both of those provisions apply. And as far as I'm concerned, I've told you, I don't think this is incidentally a part of our retail marijuana facility. I think this is not listed as an accessory use. I think it's a variance, it's not a special permit at all.
So when we're doing this, guys, as much as I'd like to give people what they want to have, and I appreciate the time and effort that goes into it and the expense to come here, I really do. But it just is not something that is allowed. And there's just, you can't go through the stuff and say, yes, 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 yes. And that's an issue. As a, whether we can grant stuff or have, you know, a little leeway, it's just not allowed. So that's my issue with it. Mr. Carrier, did you want to say something?
we-
What? Sorry.
we already started.
We're in the middle of the vote.
We can't
We're not
talk.
voting right now?
We are voting.
Yeah, we started.
No, I thought I stopped it, sorry.
No, you didn't. So now you're next, Heidi.
No, no. Not allowed.
Jean?
Yes.
Mac Brothers, no.
Okay. So it's 3-2.
Does it carry?
I did not hear the votes.
Okay, so Larry's yes,
Okay.
Grover's yes, Brian Sullivan is a no, Brian Murphy is a yes, and Heidi is a no.
Thank
Now
you.
you should take a vote on whether to grant a variance.
Wasn't 3-2? What is it?
Well, now you just, was that a motion for a special permit?
Yeah.
Yes.
To amend
Now
the
you
special
should-
permit.
He asked for, in the alternative, the granting of a variance, so.
Or
someone
a
should
motion
make
to push it back to the select board.
Well, that's what this does, if we
The
vote.
problem is, you're not
Does it
pushing it back to the
automatically go
select
back?
board.
But
The
it has
select
to.
board have a different level of authority here. They have to grant an entertainment license. You have to grant the underlying zoning use. And you need both, you can't have either one. So you're not really pushing it back to them.
But we did have either one in the previous 3 incarnations.
So is it a 4?
What does that mean?
What do you need, Bob, a 4-1 or a 3-2
I don't understand what
vote?
that means.
To grant a special permit or a variance, the board has to vote by 4 of its 5 members.
Right, so, all right, so we can, the variance, someone want to make a motion
So wait
on
a
the
minute, what
variance?
Matt just said, if they're thinking it gets bounced back.
It doesn't get bounced back to the selectmen.
Why don't we
It's
push it
just
back?
another layer. It means
No,
that
no, no, I'm just asking if.
it now
that's what
gives
I'm
them the ability to make a decision.
The
already
selectmen
made a
don't have the authority to grant this on a regular basis.
Right,
Regardless of what we say.
Right.
they can do it.
No, they do not have the authority to grant it on a regular basis
Why not?
because it requires zoning approval and an entertainment permit.
They
So,
didn't-
so if
so
we
why did-
granted the variance,
Yes.
they would still have to go in front of the Board of
of
Selectmen
Selectmen.
every time they want to have outdoor entertainment.
Yes.
Yes.
If we amended the special permit,
Yes.
every time they want outdoor entertainment, they would have to get approval
And
from
and
the
Board
Board
of
of
by the way,
Selectmen.
that's what happens at the Marshfield Fairgrounds. They get
Every year
10
they have to go there.
They get 10 successive one-day entertainment licenses to conduct the fair. Levitate gets 3 days of entertainment licenses. The other events that they have, if there's entertainment, they get a one-day license. But the fairgrounds has a very different background. It's been used for 180 years, or 175 years this way as a multi-purpose type use. This is a very different use.
So if what you said was true, then why did the previous 3 iterations of these outdoor events not require a special permit or variance?
They did.
Clearly they didn't because they happened.
They did. I think the select board was trying to help a brand-new business in its initial stages of operation. And I think that they felt that, a grand opening celebration, that might be fine to attract attention one day, but on a regular basis, it wasn't okay.
So does someone make a motion on the variance?
I can't grant the variance.
Move that
I'm not-
we grant the variance that the applicant requested to have outdoor entertainment 3 times a year.
Second? All in favor?
Very keen, aye.
Grover Hensey, no.
Brian Sullivan, no?
Brian Murphy, no?
Heidi Conley, no.
JJ,
No.
I think it's with the air conditioner. I apologize, but I can't hear the votes.
No.
So Larry was yes,
Yes, no, no.
Brian Sullivan,
You
no,
don't meet the
Heidi,
criteria. No.
You
No.
have one-
Murphy, yes.
No.
You have one more thing to act on, and I suggest you deny it as moot, and that's the site plan approval.
No, by the way.
They asked for site plan approval as well. So you should technically have a motion to approve and,
Motion to approve.
or you could,
Approval.
or you could
Second.
allow them to withdraw it without prejudice.
Would you like to withdraw without prejudice?
Nope.
All right, go ahead.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, no?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Wait a second.
What are we
Site
saying?
plan
Site
approval
Site plan approval.
is a majority vote.
Right, so we have, go ahead, Heidi.
Where? To
The-
approve the
To
site
approve
plan?
the site plan.
No.
No.
Do you understand what you're doing?
I understand what we're doing.
What's it- what- to
Mac
approve the
Brothers,
site
aye.
plan.
So the 5 members said it's a 2 to 3 vote. So
Okay, so
Okay.
that's denied as well.
as well.
Wait,
So that's the end of it.
You voted yes.
Grover voted no.
Oh, you know,
On the site plan approved, I voted yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes?
Yes, you voted yes.
Voted
The
yes.
site plan was approved.
You voted
said
no.
no.
So if you grant this, if you vote in favor of site plan approval, what you're saying is that they didn't need a special permit, and they didn't need a variance, and they can do what they've asked.
Right, and that's
So-
go to the select.
You know, the select.
And then go to select board.
It requires a special permit or variance, so we'll have more problems.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, too.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Guys,
Yeah, no worries.
So 2440 Andrew Meritz. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct an 8-foot 9 by 9-foot dormer on the intact part of the roof and replace the existing damaged flat roof with a 16-foot gable roof on the property located at 935 Union Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel B16-118 and is located in the R1 zoning district.
Hi, yeah, good evening. I purchased this house on February 2nd, and there's a barn building on the property. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, I apologize. There's a barn building on the property, and that building has a front part with an intact roof and a back part that, at the time that we bought the house, the roof was missing. There was a tarp there, and the seller provided us an engineering document that he had engaged that describes the remediation of the missing roof in the back part of the barn. So this work is substantially to action that engineering document to remediate the, to build a roof where it's missing and has a tarp. And while that work is going on, we're also taking the existing south slope of the intact gable roof, which has an existing shed dormer containing 3 windows, and we're making that shed dormer longer so that it will end up having 5 windows, and it will relieve the, headroom issue in a bathroom. That's the work. I know Andrew, if you're still on the line, Andrew's very familiar with the work as well.
Yeah, he wrote it up for us. Andrew, do you have anything to add to this, other than the information you've given us?
Nope, yep, just that, like I said before, it was a accessory structure with a non-conforming use as a detached accessory dwelling unit. But the statute of limitations that expired on that, and that's all.
All right, thank you. Anything from the audience? From the board? All right, I'm going to move that we close 24-40. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensley, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
I'm going to move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions. Andrew, what is this going to need? As I'm asleep.
What,
A building permit and a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, building permit and certificate of occupancy, based on the finding that the applicant's proposal to construct an 8-foot by 9-foot dormer on the intact part of the barn roof and replace the existing damaged flat roof with a 16-foot gable roof on the property located at 935 Union Street, as shown on the existing conditions plan dated April 23rd, 2024 by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, an elevation plan with hand-drawn notes, meets the special permit criteria of 10.12 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensley, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
so that's granted.
Pretty good.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you, Andrew.
Good evening.
Go by all the time, it looks nice.
Okay, now we have continued hearings. 2422 Quirk Cars Incorporated, 903 Plain Street.
Be disappointed you got to deal with me again. I apologize.
It's always a pleasure.
It wasn't my idea. So we left off last time. We had a public hearing with a, presentation, and I think some of the members wanted a little bit more time to digest what they saw in front of them. Since that time, we have not submitted any new information. There really wasn't anything to supplement the application that I had already filed. I would point out that I did forget, when I was thinking in my mind over and over again what I had presented, that I forgot to mention that the site has had used car sales licenses for many years as well. So it's just to reiterate the fact that it's, going from a auto body shop, car repair, car sales, to an auto dealership, which is car repairs and auto sales as well, in a more modern setting. They don't do any auto body work at the site, so that's good. It's not located in the WRPD, so that wouldn't be an issue anyway, but we don't do body work at the site. So that having been said, if there are any other questions that I can hopefully try to answer, hopefully we can move this along tonight.
So, again, the permit that Mr. Cabillion had was for 5 used cars.
Mhm.
And it expired in, I think, December of 2023.
Mhm.
So it's not the same as the big dealership it's not the same thing.
Well,
Used
it's
cars, and there was a
certainly-
limit. There was a limit to them.
Yeah.
And also, I have an issue with getting to the back of the property, and there's a clear line to get over to Kia, and I believe at the last meeting you said that they were gonna be completely separate, but there's already a railway going right over to there, so can you just explain that?
Yeah, sure. So, as I said last time, the rear portion of this lot is blocked off from access from within the lot due to a wetland, a body of wetland area that's in the way. So Mr. Quirk owns the site next door, so we're just gonna grant this particular site entity an easement to use the parking lot for the Kia to enter and use the parking lot in the back. It's very common to have an access easement. It could be from a neighbor. We just happen to own both sides, so it's simple for us. We wouldn't grant the easement until we got approval to go forward. The driveway that we created between the two dealerships now that was approved that was done above board when we took down the residential structure. We got approval from Andrew to do a temporary kind of haul road between the two sites, so we didn't have to get on and off of 139. We all know how difficult that is. We talked about this traffic signal before. It's a tough spot to get on and off 139. So in order to keep that there, we would like to keep it there so that customers can drive back and forth and employees can get back and forth, move cars back and forth, and that they don't have to enter 139. That's really what that's for, Heidi.
So when I went by there last week, it was, the structure was still there, wasn't it? The house was still there?
No, there's like a garage is still there, Heidi, but they're just using the garage for like temporary storage, but that's coming down too. It's not.
There is a house there.
No, there's no residential
Looks like a
house.
house.
No. Yeah, but it's not the house. The house is
Familiar with
gone.
this, I go by it and I do business at that location
Yeah.
before, when it was Hopper Auto Body, and it's pretty much everything's gone. It's more of a shed.
It's like yeah.
Not much more.
Yeah.
So doesn't this an Andrew, doesn't the use need to be approved by Andrew, Andrew?
What's that, Heidi?
Does the use need to be, you need to decide that this is a different use or approve that it's a significant or non-significant change of use or something? Whatever it is that you do.
So if I could, so this is a pre-existing non-conforming use because it's in the industrial district and it's not allowed. The car dealership, a new and used car dealership would be a non-conforming use as well. And in your bylaw, you're allowed to change a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use as long as it's allowed somewhere in the district, in the town. And I'm
Actually, it says it's as long as I determine if it's not substantially different, then it can be changed.
yeah.
Well, it's identical.
What do you mean?
This is about as close as it gets, to a
So they're not, one
similar
was an
use.
auto
But it's,
body repair.
yeah, and so
Residential
I never,
house.
to answer your question, Heidi, no, I never made a determination on this. It was never brought to me for a determination on whether or not it was a change of use or not. I do happen to feel that it is substantially different. It is an auto body in a single-family dwelling right now, with a license from the select board to sell up to 5 used vehicles. And so what we're gonna change it to is a use that's prohibited in this district, and it's going to expand the use throughout the entire property, and then it's also going to intensify the use of that property by cutting down all the trees and paving 2 separate parking lots. Like I said in my notes, I felt that if they truly wanted to do it this way, the cleanest way to do it would be to combine both lots. If you combine both lots, then it truly is an extension of a non-conforming use from the Quirk lot over to the now incorporated area of the other lot. Then that would be an extension and alteration of a non-conforming use. This is a change of use if it's a separate lot. And I think it's substantially different and way more intense than the current use on the property.
Bob, do you have anything to?
Agree with Andrew.
Okay. So they could combine the two lots and do the same thing?
Yep.
The same project?
There are two lots here. There's one that's, was the automotive place, and the other one was in residential use. And they're combining them into one use, but, you know, it's, the board has to answer the question, is the extended alter use substantially different in character?
But so what Andrew's saying, that if they combine the two, they could do this?
Yeah, they'd have to combine them into one ownership.
Right.
Oh, like with the Kia place, is that what you're saying? Or no?
Or whatever entity that they own. I don't think it's owned by like Kia, or it's owned by.
Whatever.
No, it's owned by us. Yeah, we have two different LLCs that own the two different parcels. So what you're saying is if we transfer the title to this property to the LLC that owns the property at Kia, we'd be able to use that as an expansion or alteration of a non-conforming use? By the way, I don't agree that this isn't a substantial change. You've got automotive use at this site for 50 years. This is an automotive use that is going to continue in this spot. So I don't agree that that is a substantial change.
It's a dealership
I-
versus an auto body
I understand
repair.
that it may be more intense, but your obligation would be, is it substantially more detrimental? And that is the threshold decision that you would have to make for this use to continue or to be extended or altered. That's the decision you have to make.
Say that-
And that's what we applied for. Is it substantially more detrimental than what's there?
So what is more detrimental in what respect?
Well, it's more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use. That's a good question. What does it mean? It means your decision would need to, your finding would need to be, is it more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use? What's there is automotive repair, body shop, car sales. This is going to be a modernized automotive repair and car sales.
Without a
It's
body
not
shop.
substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use.
So-
A use that would be brought up to date, drainage is improved, the building structure is improved, it meets all of your bylaws, all of them. All of the performance standards that are required for site plan approval and for the special permit are met by this application. And
I
this
think
is-
to get an idea of what it would look like, you just need to look across the street and next door. And Danny Quirk, or the Quirk family, builds structures that are suitable for their location. They're perfectly maintained. What you see now is, I wouldn't say derelict, but it,
Clean that up, they own it.
We did clean it up. It's a
Yeah.
lot nicer than it was when we took it over.
yeah,
A lot nicer.
I respectfully disagree with the building commissioner that it is substantially different. I think it's identical. You're talking about selling cars, you're talking about selling more cars. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use today, and it's going to be a pre-existing non-conforming use tomorrow. It's just going to look a heck of a lot better, and it's going to pay substantially more taxes to the town of Marshfield than the current property. And not that that's the standard to grant any kind of relief, but facts are facts.
So
It's allowed in a B2 directly across the street.
Yeah.
They don't own that. I understand it's a different zone. What's allowed in this zone, what's permitted, is a town garage, an office building, a cell tower, a Lowe's or Home Depot, a bus terminal, a research and development lab, level 1 and 2, or a dog kennel. I think of all those things, this is a better use for that space.
But if it's not allowed,
In my opinion, I agree with Brian, though. I think
It is allowed because right now it's pre-existing non-conforming. It's not allowed as a matter of right.
I think all they're doing.
You can change a use under the provision that he's talking about. You just have to meet the elements of the test. And the test that Andrew was talking about is it's substantially different in character, but that's your call.
I do not believe, personally, I do not believe it's substantially different in character.
I don't believe it's substantially different in character, and I think it's less detrimental because the removal of the auto body aspect, there's no VOCs, there's no painting going on, there's no sanding going on, there's no microchemicals getting into the air because of the auto body work. They're still going to be selling cars, and they're still going to be repairing cars. So that, to me, it's less detrimental, actually, to implement this plan.
They're going to be doing it on a much larger scale. 5 cars versus a fleet.
Selling 5
Selling
cars.
and repairing whatever.
Well,
So there's going to be more than what
there's
Mr.
not that, it's
Cavilion
not
was
that
saying.
big, it's not that big a building. They're not going to be repairing
not.
significantly more cars.
It's gonna be
Will be one of the
significantly
smaller
bigger than
buildings
Mr.
that we have.
Cavilion's.
Do you have a landscaping plan?
I don't know what was submitted. I think we did submit a landscaping plan, yep.
Yeah, it was submitted.
I apologize that Deb's not here. We must have got our wires crossed, but Deb Keller would normally be.
The other thing that, so I'll go back on the back lot here, that the thing that always bothers me is thinking in the future, is at some point if those two lots that are now side by side owned by the same group, end up not being owned by the same group, I would prefer not to burden one of them with a deeded easement to allow access that they may not want. So I'm always kind of trying to thinking a future step ahead here is there a way to make sure that that easement isn't kind of a deeded easement, but it's just an agreement between the two entities?
It would have to be a deeded easement.
It'd be easier if there was one entity rather than two entities, but.
So Bob, would merger affect this since they own both, once this is
No,
done?
they probably have it, you have it under a different title? Wouldn't merge.
How
I mean,
many
we have
cars-
the thing that's peculiar about Marshfield's bylaw and non-conforming uses is most towns have prohibitive bylaws that are intended to be remedial to get rid of non-conforming uses, and Marshfield's is more permissive.
Yes.
It does allow you to change or alter a non-conforming use, but you have to meet those 7 or 8 elements of the standard. And the one that seems to be, that you're wrestling with is this substantially different in character, and, that's your call to make.
All right.
The only thing they're gonna be doing with this is increasing the intensity of the property. The property's gonna look substantially better. It's been the same block building for 100 years with a dilapidated residential structure beside it. The Quirk organization is already set the standard for what they do. I think it's the highest and best use for this location, and I don't see it being a detriment to that neighborhood or the community whatsoever, an iota. I think that the roadway between the 2 lots, I think is an excellent idea. It's a little forethinking that the Quirk organization has taken to keep traffic off of 139. I'm all for it.
Can I make a brief point here? And that is, I don't have a problem with this project here, necessarily. What I had a problem with was just the way it was done. And, I'm just being consistent with how I handle these properties. And when I rule that something is a change of use and it's substantially different, this is currently, it's use number 16, and it's getting changed to use number 6, So it is substantially different in my opinion. And I'm just trying to be consistent, and I felt that, if this was like a Tesla dealership that wanted to do the exact same plan and cut through Quirk to get to the back parking lot, that they'd have a pretty tough time getting an easement from a competitor. And so it is a little bit of a competitive advantage to have that. And that's why I thought that the best way to do it cleanest is if you merge the lots into one lot, then it truly is an extension of the use, the current use of the Quirk dealership onto the next aspect of the property. And that's all I was saying, is just, I felt that the way it was getting done was not appropriate, and that it should be getting done a different way. It's not that I think it's detrimental or anything like that. That's never anything that I said.
So to clarify, what you're saying is it was the wrong way to do the right thing?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't combine them? I'm just asking, because I don't know.
I really can't speak to that, to be honest with you. We've always, we keep them separate so that it offers more flexibility to the landowner down the road. I've never known Dan to sell anything, so I can't imagine that that was a problem, but, I don't handle that part of his business. The real estate part itself, the transactional stuff is done by his other counsel. I would have done it the same way, for purposes of merger, like we discussed, and things like that, and just having a separate entity for exposure and liability issues. That entity is all by itself, so. I don't see
Hypothetically
I don't see the big issue with the easement itself. This happens all the time where we get easements. The fact that we own both sides, it's a matter of convenience. I wouldn't call it a competitive edge. I think that's sort of unfair.
Even if it is a competitive
It's
edge,
just,
so what?
yeah, it is what it is. Neighbors would pay for the easement to get it, to be able to use the back, and I'm sure a neighboring business would take plenty of money to allow his neighbor to have access to the back for the right price, that kind of thing. So I think it's something that happens quite often. It does in my world anyway, where we're constantly dealing with access easements and stuff like that, so. And I think that a deeded easement makes sense to have a condition of the special permit for a deeded easement so that we have access to the back in perpetuity. And if a buyer did buy it, well, that's too bad. This lot has
You're buying
access
it
to the back.
subject to easement, yeah. Hypothetically speaking, if you have two pre-existing non-conforming lots, and then you have one pre-existing non-conforming lot, there is a loss of value.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can require someone who is two of something to then just have one of something.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I agree with that.
Do we have anything from the audience on this? Anything else from the board?
I'm good.
Seeing that there is none, move to close 2422 Quirk Cars Incorporated, 903 Plain Street. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Cohen, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
I'm going to move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit to alter or extend a non-conforming use and for site plan approval, subject to the conditions, building permit, site, as-built. Anything else, Andrew? Based on the finding that the applicant's proposal to raise the existing automobile business at 903 Plain and residential building garage and construct a new automobile dealership selling new and used vehicles with incidental automotive repair as shown as a set of plans entitled Definitive Site Plan dated May 16th, 2024 by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, endorsed by Deborah Keller, P.E., meets the special permit criteria, Section 1012 of the bylaw, and the performance standards and design criteria of Section 1202 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Cohen, no.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have, McDonough, did he sent in a thing to
To withdraw, so you have to vote on that.
Right.
We're good.
So 2387, Kevin McDonough, 53 Juniper Road, has made a motion to withdraw without prejudice. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Oh, Heidi Cohen, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you. 2395, Patrick Campbell, 1067 Union Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. My name's Attorney John Danahy. I'm from Situate. I represent Patrick and Catherine Campbell, who reside at 1087 Union Street. For some of the board members, just as a kind of a quick history of what we're doing here, we're appealing the building inspector's decision dated October 22nd. That was in response to Mr. and Mrs. Campbell's letter requesting enforcement of the property located at 1067 Union Street. By way of background, 1067 Union Street
Can I
is
just
owned...
interrupt for a second? You said 10 1087 and 1067?
Correct.
All right, I just want to make sure I heard those correctly.
Yes, 67 is the property.
Is the property, and
is the issue.
87 is next
Is
door?
where they reside. They're
Okay.
abutting properties,
Thank
yes.
you.
And this board granted a special permit back in November of 2022 to the Tolmans for them to be able to fill in excess of 500 cubic yards within an area greater than 10,000 square feet. Under the bylaw, they're building inside, I guess, an indoor riding arena. They have a paddocks, and it's like a farm, a horse farm they have. And what they're doing is to build a barn pretty much directly on the property line of the Campbells. The board granted it to them, and specifically, it was based upon some representations of plans submitted by Merrill Engineers dated October 25th, 2022. Subsequently, the Tolmans ended up getting a building permit to build the structure. The structure was built, and, oops, I'm sorry, thank you for using that. So looking at the bird's eye view, that's the barn that was built by the Tolmans, and on the north portion, you can see the roof line of the Campbell's property, which has the two cars in the parking, just a little north there, correct. Now, in October, Mr. and Mrs. Campbell then had requested enforcement. The enforcement that they were seeking was under the bylaws, specifically pertaining to setbacks. One of the issues they have is based upon the plan that was submitted and that they were building, there should have been a buffer of 10 feet from the property line, which is denoted by this stone wall. And then from that property line, you can see the black line. That's probably either the stone wall or maybe it could be, not hay bales, but the socks that they use. Yeah, that's it. That's the green, right there, okay. And you can see the stone wall right above it. There should have been a buffer about 10 feet along that line. There isn't. And what was supposed to happen was the revetment, or the riprap rather, was supposed to go down and not go to the toe or to the stone wall. It was supposed to be 10 feet setback. That was not done. In addition, and again, this is not like there was anything underhanded here, I don't believe. They were proposing a barn, and the setbacks for a barn of that structure are 30 feet from the sideline. Based on their plan that they submitted, they say it was 21 feet. Now, the zoning enforcement officer, Mr. Stewart, indicated he'd taken a measurement as a part of his letter, saying that it actually is approximately, I think, about 27 feet. So why are we here? Is it here because of the structure or anything? No. What's really happening is that there has been a deluge of water coming in 3 different areas off of the Tolman's property. Now, the picture right there that is being shown here is the actual infiltration system inside the barn. And what happens is the infiltration system, which it says proposed subsurface infiltration, goes out the back. There's a little line going off to the left. That's the pipe that goes out. It then daylights somewhere in that area and then proceeds to go north onto the Campbell's property. In addition, there is water that's coming out from the top right corner where the riprap, or the riprap is located, and it's also coming across the back portion of the Campbell's property. And then further, there's more water that's coming across their driveway. When we were here before you last, I think we first came in December, some of the board members I had encouraged to go see the property, to kind of see it. We certainly had a lot of rainfall, no doubt, from November all the way up until spring. And I believe 1 or 2 of the board members had an opportunity to take a look at it. Hopefully you had, others have. It certainly would demonstrate, you're going to see small streams and water flowing directly. This was not here before. It's certainly happening now. And so obviously the Campbells are very concerned because whatever was designed was not supposed to create water on the abutting property. Now, when I was last here, I asked the board for a continuance because I wanted the opportunity for our expert, David Lynch, to be able to speak, or David Kelly, sorry. David Kelly, to be able to speak with Merrill's engineer And were able to touch base to talk about the project just as a whole. We did ask for calculations from the engineer, and they were told that they were not going to be released. So we weren't able to get the actual calculations with respect to what they were designed and what they are seeing with the infiltration system as well as what's going on. Then we'd asked for continuance due to, I think, a situation that I had, personal matter. Then we got continued again, and that's the reason we're here today. So what am I here and asking the board? I'm asking the board for relief, and I know this is, usually it's tough to ask this, to say to overturn your building inspector or your zoning enforcement officer, but we're asking you to do that. And this is our relief that we're asking. First, we would ask that you would not, you obviously approve our appeal, but actually by reversing his decision. But we would ask that no certificate of occupancy or even a temporary certificate of occupancy be issued. The second thing I would ask on behalf of the Campbells, potentially even a cease and desist order, because they could be using it right now, is what my understanding is. Also, that they submit an as-built. Now, I ask that because your special permit required it as one of the conditions, that a final as-built be prepared by their professional land surveyors to be submitted to the zoning board. And I'd ask that because now you can take a look of what they proposed and what actually is on the ground, so that you can see for yourselves the difference. And also, the certificate of occupancy is also listed as a condition, and that's why I'm asking the board for that relief. Part of your rationale, your reasoning was to say that, they were supposed to have 10 feet from the property line, and they don't have 10 feet of buffer. It's all stone right down there. Again, the buffer would be helpful because water would hit it, hopefully then take it down and go down towards Union Street. And the other thing they're supposed to do is replace at least 4 inches of topsoil, all the filled and other areas disturbed. That hasn't been done. So why? Because our hope is that maybe the water would go into it and then would slowly work its way down and then find its way out. The other thing that obviously the Campbells would like to see is a perforated pipe to be placed to carry the water down to the street on their property. And I ask that because they didn't build the plan according to what they were supposed to do. For whatever reason, but they've caused issue to the abutting property owner. And now they've got the issue of water coming from the Tallman's property. And our hope is that just drain the water, take it away, don't put it onto our property. That's it. That's really the relief they're seeking. And unfortunately, without getting cooperations from the Tallmans, at this juncture, then we would ask that this board at least give us the opportunity so that this can be rectified, and that's all they're looking for. And so I would ask this board to, approve our appeal in overturning the decision by the building inspector. And I know it's a drastic ask, but the last thing I was going to do is submit pictures before, because I don't think we had any pictures before, and obviously the pictures of what the barn is now from the Campbell's property. This is, again, it's not here to shock you. It's not supposed to be like, oh, look at the visuals. They're allowed to build a barn. We get that. It's the water. That's the problem. So I would submit this to the board. Mr. Clerk, thank you. Happy to take any questions.
So you've spoken to the Tolmans and they haven't wanted to rectify any of the water situation, or they're saying there is no water situation, or you haven't had that conversation?
So I did have a phone call with Mrs. Tolman back in January, and at that time, she had said that she had spoken to an attorney, and I told her, then I want to speak to the attorney. She had told me she hadn't hired an attorney. I said, then our experts would like, Mr. David Lynch, like to speak to your engineers because we have a water problem.
Yeah.
And so she did let us speak, at least the experts speak initially. And then that last I heard was that the expert, Mr. Lynch, was told he was not going to get the calculations from their engineer. That was that.
So, Bob, what do we do with this? Like, what's the, how do you rectify something?
I don't know how close this building is to the side lot line. It has to be at least 10 feet.
Do we know how many feet it is, anybody?
The building, my understanding is the building is by engineering either 21 feet or based on building inspector's calculation 27. But I would point out to the town council, what we're looking at is section 305-6.07, accessory buildings. And it's the last sentence that we're focused on, which says, the height of the accessory barn may be increased to 35 feet if the minimum front setback is increased to 50. We're not talking about that. It's the last, and the other lot line setbacks are increased to 30 feet. And that's where we're saying they are in violation. They're not set back 30 feet because the height is beyond that.
I think he's right.
Quick question. I grew up on a farm, but I don't know what a infiltration system is.
Need a motion that
So you're asking a lawyer who's probably doesn't know as much, but I think what it is the water's collected from the various downspouts, brought into a central area.
It's exterior water.
Yes, it is.
All right,
And it
so
goes
it's
into
a cistern.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a large dry well.
Yeah, it's a cistern. It's a, yeah, okay, I get that. Fancy name, got it.
Any other questions from the board?
I'd like to hear from Andrew.
Andrew, would you like to say anything? I know you spoke on this earlier.
Yeah, I've spoken on it before. The 27 feet I got from Dana Altobello with Merrill Engineering. That was what he gave me for when they staked it out. So that's how I got that information.
Okay.
It wasn't a measurement I took.
All right, thank you.
Also, with any of the conditions that you mentioned here, Andrew, before you gave an occupancy permit on this, that would need to be met, correct, with any topsoil or whatever going in?
I don't know if you're- Yeah, he's showing the conditions.
Whatever conditions are on
Our thing, yeah.
Yeah.
on your thing, yes, that would all, this would all have to be completed prior to issuing a full certificate of occupancy.
And the as-built would show exactly what is there, correct?
Exactly, yep.
And we don't have an as-built?
Well, don't do it till they're done.
At this time, they don't.
So, any questions from the audience? Anything else from the board?
So wasn't this the one, I'm getting, like, we went by there, we saw it, but isn't this the one that the engineer, somebody was asked and they said that they did it the way it was supposed to be done?
Yeah, they were questioning.
like-
It was about the riprap.
The
It was done
riprap, the
properly.
material used underneath, but they sent us stuff that said they used the proper material and it does drain. The applicant, I mean,
You brought
he
the
brought in
example, right?
something that
There's
said
a
it didn't
cup or whatever.
handle
Okay, I
water,
just want to
but,
make sure I'm like.
Yes, that's it.
I was not at the initial hearing.
yeah, so.
I did go by this location. and
I went by
a
as
gentleman
well.
actually came by my house during a rainstorm and asked me to go up there, so I did walk the property with him. It is quite wet. There's a lot of water running off. It was a storm when we were walking
Yeah.
through this woods, so it is wet. But you also, you do have a water mitigation system, if not, that you put in your property before this barn was even put, correct? So there was water back there before, that this may be, it may be.
Supplement.
Yeah, it may be exaggerating it now, but that hill in that area has always had, I don't live far from you, so my lot is very wet also.
There is new water flowing at new locations from the Tallman property onto our property. And that was never there in the previous 5 years.
Yeah.
So we put the French drain behind the house, near the wall, prophylactically, because they are upgradient of us. And you can see the evergreens behind the house,
Yep.
near the barn. They cast a lot of our backyard into shadow most of the day, which means that grass doesn't grow very well, and it's mossy. And one of the reasons, well, it's mossy because it's in shadow, but it's mossy because it, can't dry because of water that comes from up gradient.
Yep.
So we put the drains in order to reduce the amount of moisture that was in that corner of the yard in order to try and get grass to grow. It wasn't because we had running water across that area of our backyard. It was because we wanted to get that area of our backyard drier and grow grass. What's happened since the downspouts have been connected in November is a totally different type of flooding that didn't exist before the barn was built.
Yeah.
So we have a couple issues, right? So it's too close. So, Bob, you're saying they needed a variance for that because it's too close?
Yep.
And then something with the drainage.
Well, I mean, I think what you're facing is you've got a building that was built in violation of side setback requirements at this height. So I think there's some legs to Attorney Danny's argument here. As a practical matter, I don't know whether you can compel them to remove the building but the owner should apply for a variance and probably come up with a better water mitigation plan, because what they've got here is causing some damage here to the neighbor.
We have any other questions? Seeing that there's none, I'm going to move that we close 2395 Patrick Campbell, 1067 Union Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
I'm out.
Oh, Brian Murphy, aye.
I was at the initial hearing.
Heidi?
Yeah. Would you
Yeah,
say we'd be
aye.
closing it?
Yeah. Gene, you weren't here, right? Were you here for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
I wasn't here.
Okay.
Mac wasn't, I had just started.
I'm going to move that the board vote to deny the appellant's appeal and uphold the decision of the building commissioner on the following grounds. We agree with the building commissioner's explanation of the project. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Aye.
Cora Hensley, aye. Brian Murphy, aye.
This is a question.
Go
I
ahead.
know, shut up.
Oh.
So does that mean that even if we uphold his decision, that they don't need some type of a variance because they're less than 30 feet?
They're gonna run
We're
into an
going
issue
with, yeah, we're going to.
at the end.
You just agree with that the 27
We
is
agree with
fine?
Andrew's definition that he gave us. He gave us a very good explanation of why he believed this fit the criteria at the initial meeting. He put it on a scale, he showed us how it worked, and how he believed that this meets the building criteria.
Which is all gonna be part of the as-built. It's
Right,
all gonna be
correct.
out.
Yes.
It's all gotta be there. If it's not the way it was supposed to be built, then Andrew's not gonna
So
approve.
if it's not 30 feet, then they have to do something about it?
Correct.
Because it's already
They're
built?
They're gonna have to come back for a
Well,
variance.
we're agreeing with what Andrew's what he defined it in his
If
explanation.
the topsoil's not put where it's supposed to be. by
He's going to make sure that they put everything where it belongs.
If you're gonna make them come in for a variance, you have to overturn my decision.
Right. I mean.
Yeah,
Because
but
I'm
we're-
not enforcing it.
No, I'm
And
saying that
you
we
would be
agree.
enforcing them to make them get a variance.
Right, I'm saying that we agree with your definition that you gave us at the initial outset of this. That is what this answer says.
So I'm.
Okay, but if that's the case, then the Tallmans would not have to come in for a variance, okay?
Okay.
Just wanted to make
Does
sure
that mean that
you're
they don't-
all aware of that.
Does
No,
that mean
Ann-
they don't have to do anything?
No, Andrew's going to make sure that they do everything that they're supposed to do to make sure that this works.
What about the water, is what I'm asking?
Well, you can't shed water onto another property. If that's the problem they're creating, they'll be responsible to fix that.
Oh, if
okay, all
Andrew
right.
feels that they are shedding water onto the property, he can go to their engineer and
Well, Andrew can say,
Want
this
that
is what's
correct.
happening, and he can say, this is the enforcement action, you need to change this.
you need to do.
But I've already said that I don't feel that way.
Okay.
I don't feel that they're,
Then Andrew doesn't
Okay,
feel
then
that.
I'm a
that's
no.
why we're
Okay.
here.
Okay, then I'm a no, sorry. If he does, they don't have to fix anything, and they're not gonna have to do anything, and it doesn't have to be 30 feet, and there's water going on there, and Andrew doesn't happen to agree, which I respect your decision, and that he doesn't.
Well, he's
agree
saying
with
that he
his
believes the
water.
water was already there, which they've also said the same thing.
That's not what we said.
No, that's not.
It's been actually a
Okay,
lot
I'm a
more.
no.
No, I want the people, I'm confused about this. So I want the water to stop. It's not doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I understand Mr. Campbell's position, and I understand, I agree with what Andrew said in his decision, But obviously, there's a problem between the two, and if there was no water there before, or as much water there as before and there is now, wouldn't the Tolmans be responsible for fixing what problems they created?
Well, whatever drainage they're using, they're gonna have to adjust or whatever.
They will have to adjust it.
Only if, Andrew just said, only if he thinks there is and he doesn't.
And he doesn't.
He just said he doesn't think that. That's why I'm confused.
That's why I'm confused.
That's why I'm confused.
He doesn't think it. So that's what I'm.
He's going to grant the CO. That's what's going to happen, and then we'll have to, I guess, address it.
That's for that reason, I'm a no, because that, he doesn't believe that there's water there, which is fine, he has the right to think that, clearly there's something going on. I'm a no. I don't.
Yeah, okay. No, then, because I just think that there is a problem there and it needs to be addressed.
So you're a no?
I'm a no.
Mac Brothers, no.
Okay, so that's, go ahead.
And again, I apologize because I can't.
I understand.
Well from that.
So it's Larry,
But you-
Grover,
you
and myself.
confirm the motion as well?
Okay, the motion was to, I move that the board vote to deny the appellant's appeal and uphold the decision of the building commissioner on the following grounds. We agree with the building commissioner's
Okay.
explanation of the project.
And now the votes.
The votes, Larry was a yes, Grover was a yes, I'm a yes, Heidi is a no, and Jean is a no. So Bob
So the building inspector's opinion is overturned.
is overturned.
Yeah, because you didn't have a sufficient vote.
Oh, you needed 4.
You need a 4. All right. So now what?
Now what happens?
Andrew's
I didn't
obligated to
even
enforce the
figure
bylaw or require a variance.
So they'll require a variance?
It would require a dimensional variance from the side setback requirement. I mean, these circumstances happen. People put the building in the wrong location. I don't know what happened here, but that appears to be what happened, and, you know, perhaps they can put in a water mitigation system that will enable this to be resolved by leaving it where it is. I don't know.
Yeah, clearly we don't want anybody to have to move the building.
Altering the
We can fix
building is going to be a
drainage.
very expensive proposition.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members. I appreciate it. Your consideration. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Good luck.
So I don't have to, Next Door Realty Trust, they already continued to July 9th, correct?
Yeah, they've already made.
All right, so, so, other business, we have Friends of Peter Igo Park. Come on up.
Jesus, can we turn the AC down? It is freezing in here.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Thank you
Just-
for having me.
Just grant him his relief and send him on the way.
I didn't ask the attorney.
So, Friends of Peter Igo Park, 35 Marshall Avenue, are requesting a waiver from site plan approval to install a 13-foot by 15-foot pergola at Peter Igo Park.
Pergola, sir.
Pergola, sorry.
I made to correct you, but
Thank you.
yes.
Does anyone have a problem with this on the board?
No, is it big enough?
13 by 15, yeah. We think it's, what basically we want it more like another shade station. We've got a vibrant, that southeast quadrant that was developed at Peter Igo. Has now got beach volleyball going on, bocce league that's just crazy, crazy busy, which is great. We now have a cornhole league over there, and then, of course, we get the rowing. And dog walkers and all that. So we really want another place, a shade station, and, some place that they can get, out of the sun.
So I'd be more than happy to let you extend it dimensionally correctly. Like, if you wanted to bring it this way a little bit, just to make more seating, because it is busy there. If you wanted to request that.
Well, one of the reasons is we already bought it,
All right.
Now you tell me. No, actually, we also have a couple of gazebos. We have one across the street, and we have a gazebo closer to the tennis courts. And then we have another shade station over where the basketball courts are. So we're kind of big on this, keeping, well, okay, there you go. You
Yep.
can see what's going on there.
Same
So
thing. Okay.
we don't want it so big where it's a hangout. We also have it wide open so you can see it from the street.
Yeah.
I talked to Chief Phil about that, you know, anytime that we try to do something, we want eyes all around. I mean, we have cameras there, but we still we prefer to have, we think the size is just gonna be fine.
Okay.
You know?
Is this by the bocce ball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was Peter Igo?
Peter Igo was the first hired, he was the chairman of the Catholic League way back when in the 60s and 70s, it was actually 60s, retired to Green Harbor and became the first paid recreation director of Marshfield.
Wow.
And so the park was named in his honor back in 1972.
Yeah, that's been around. When was he born? Like, do you have any idea when he was born, how old he was? Or?
No, I never met him. I was overseas. I was in the military. I never got to meet him, but I had friends of mine that actually worked for him under, you know, in a summer rec department program with him, and they said that he was a great guy. He was very friendly with, you may not remember because this guy is old, Leskatov, Bob Cousy, all of those guys, and he had the Celtics were always attended a lot of his functions because he was very close with Cardinal Cushing. So he was quite a guy. I wish I had met him. But we met a lot
I
of his
remember the
family.
camp, so.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve a waiver of site plan approval to install a 13 by 15 pergola at Peter Igo.
Second.
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian
So we
Sullivan,
want
aye?
this to go
Brian
through.
Murphy, aye.
I don't use it, but it's.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers,
I love it over
aye.
there.
Thanks, bud.
Love it. It looks
All right,
really
so-
good. Thank you
looks
so
nice.
much.
Oh, thank you.
Looks really
Thank you very
nice.
much. And
Good luck.
Nice.
we do
Nice
have the
addition.
fitness stations down there, Brian.
No, I tried it. I did go
Ready
down
to
there.
get the yes before I said that.
Right, but I did try it, but I gave
some of
up on the
those-
sit-up thing.
Get some of
I got
those
stuck.
microgreens.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Mowing
you.
thing is brutal.
So 2236 Enterprise
Oh, my
PVI
God.
LLC, petition requests a one-year extension to July 26, 2025 for the site plan approval that was granted in July 12th of 2022 meeting.
What is, I'm sorry, I'm like drawing a blank. What is it?
It's the,
That's the solar panels on
Solar
Enterprise
panels.
Drive. That's right. On the corner of Enterprise
Photovoltaic.
and,
Now that I can say
Commerce.
that word.
Yeah.
And where are they going?
One up in the industrial park.
right next to
Oh,
the right
okay,
of,
the thing. Okay, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So a motion that we accept this and extend this 1 year to July 26th of 2025 for site plan approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Oh, Heidi Cohen, aye. Sorry.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you. So Richard, 2413, Richard
Glad you
Clements,
made it all nice.
16 Old Summer Street, clarification, discussion on a verbiage used in the decision granted on February 27th of 2024.
There's a lot of stuff on the top.
Jeff
Go ahead.
DeLisi, Orenberger, DeLisi, and Harris. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Basically, this use was approved as a grandfathered two dwelling use on a single lot of land. We were back here in February. When we were here in February, we requested to convert the two dwellings into an accessory building that is not a residential dwelling, and then to reconstruct a dwelling more in the center lot. The net result would be two dwellings, which is what previously existed, to two dwellings proposed plus an accessory building. The vote was made, or the motion was made in my review of the hearing video today to approve the relief. And after it was voted, Attorney Galvin suggested that you ought to put a condition on this that says that the cottage, the smaller dwelling, is gonna be discontinued as a cottage and that it will only be an accessory building not available for use as a residential structure. That was adopted unanimously. And so
we don't seek to change that by being here tonight, but the written decision included verbiage that the motion did not include, and the written decision included verbiage that the smaller of the two existing dwellings be converted to non-dwelling purposes prior to the issue of the building permit for the new dwelling. And the only reason why I'm here is my client's sister would like to continue to live in this smaller dwelling until such time as the new one is built and a certificate of occupancy. So the whole idea here would be to clarify the decision to allow us to have an occupancy of the existing house until such time as we request an occupancy of the new house. So, does everybody understand that?
You've got two dwellings, you're always going to have two dwellings. You're just seeking us to say you can have two dwellings?
Right.
But you're gonna have three.
No, not at all.
You have three
No,
buildings.
we required them to demolish the smaller unit or discontinue it as a living unit.
Right.
And just have-
Prior to him getting a building permit for the new structure they're putting up. They want to continue utilizing the existing smaller unit until the new one is constructed. They
Is
don't
the
wanna
new one
discontinue
constructed?
You're only going to have
No.
certificates of occupancy for two dwellings at any given time.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, that's what they want right
Oh,
now.
I got it. They.
Yeah, Mac, you're,
Yeah.
we've been here a few times, so.
So Andrew,
I got it.
normally would, say that you were gonna, I know I always use the South River Street one, but, so when they built that house in the back, they lived in the one out front, and then they moved into the house out back, and then they demolished the one out front. So this, they're not demolishing, they're removing all the elements that would be considered to make it a dwelling. Is that the same, or am I misunderstanding something? Is Andrew there?
I'm here, I'm trying to digest what you're saying.
All right, so my question is, if in the past, when we've had a dwelling be torn down and then a new dwelling built behind it, they were allowed to stay and live in the first dwelling, and then I think you would give them a temporary on the back dwelling, and then they'd demolish the first one. So this is different because the building's
So,
staying.
yeah, so they
would.
would get, what generally would happen in a case like this, where we've done, well, not in a case like this, but yes, where they were going to build a new house on a different portion or a different area of the lot, but still wanted to live in that house while they did the work elsewhere on the lot, they would continue to do so, and then they would get temporary occupancy for the rear house, let's say.
The new one,
And it would
yeah.
be conditional upon, you know, the completion of the requirements of the ZBA special permit, which would include, you know, that they have to get a building permit and demolish the structure or remove any, you know, non-compliant elements in this case, you know, so, yeah, they would have to, you know, it would be the board, basically, your discretion of how you want to condition it. You want to condition it that they have to have it done prior to issuing the building permit or prior to occupancy. I mean, it's really up to the board to condition it. It's really not something that I just kind of decide.
All right, so you could do the one with where you do the temporary occupancy in the new structure. They remove the pieces of the other structure that make it considered a dwelling, and then you would remove that, occupancy, and then there still would only be two on the one property, right? Am I saying that right?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, look, whatever you guys condition.
Look, you could just condition it very simply, at no time shall there be more than two dwellings on this property, right?
Okay, Bob, do you?
I think what you ought to do is, so you said that the second structure had to be converted to a non-residential structure. I mean, you weren't told that the sister wanted to live there during the building.
No, I don't think that's.
So that's new information, but if you wanted to clarify your decision and say that the existing second structure can remain until the time of a final occupancy on the newly constructed, I think you can allow that if you want.
So what Bob said,
fine.
we can
She's
adopt.
moving into the new one, is that what you're saying?
But the final occupancy certificate on the new house cannot issue until the
Other one is
existing
removed.
Right.
structure is fully converted into a non-residential structure.
Non-residential, so that would be the same like Andrew said. So he'd give them a temp on the new building, and then he'd remove it on the other.
I don't think you should give any occupancy certificate until they convert the new one.
Yep,
But you
that's
can't
fine.
live, you
No.
can't do the
Well, so
That's
they
how it's
move in,
normally
they don't get
done.
an occupancy certificate, then we get a fight on our hands if they don't. So I would not issue any occupancy certificate until they remove the elements of the other structure that make it,
All right, so you're saying they could move into the house and then remove the stuff on the other house?
well, no, when they come in, they know when they're gonna do it. I mean, if somebody's out of the house for a day, I mean, they kind of know
Well,
when
it's not even, I mean, it's a different person, right? I mean, it's,
It's one lot, one ownership, 2 houses on one lot. The
sister-
property is owned by one person.
But the sister that lives in the little hut now, the cottage, right?
In the tent.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, I'm just like, I'm so tired. The cottage, the sister lives there, right? Right? The owner's sister,
The idea is for the system,
moving to the new big house.
I don't know where she's moving to.
Not living there.
Yeah. Look, the point is that the motion said nothing about when this was to occur. It only said cease using the smaller house as a dwelling so that there's not more than 2 dwellings on the property at any given time. And we're not refuting that.
Right.
We just, all of a sudden, in the written decision, the words building permit appeared. And it said, prior to the issuance of a building permit to construct the new dwelling, you have to get rid of the dwelling components from the current dwelling. And it shouldn't have made its way into the decision, and that's the problem, because it wasn't anything that you voted.
That was my aha moment before Jeff.
that's all.
Yeah,
Saying is
sorry about that.
They can
Yeah,
live there till the new.
I think I got worn down tonight.
Yeah,
But
so
at no
just-
point will you
I'll
have
get
more than
Greg
2
to get
dwellings
my
on one
pound of
property.
flesh from me.
Right, it's just the prior that has to go.
Yeah.
It's just the prior that has to go, because, and they can only have 2 dwellings.
We just want the ability to stay in these 2 dwellings that we have on the property now as dwellings, to use them as dwellings until such time as the occupancy permit issues for the new dwelling, at which point, prior to that occupancy permit, the condition would be that we have to remove the components of the current dwelling. We just don't want to have to remove them
think
before
that's
the building
clarified.
permit. That's all.
Do we have to do anything to vote on this, Bob, or we just?
Yeah, you should take a vote that prior to the issuance of an occupancy certificate to the second house, the existing structure shall be made non-habitable.
All right, I'm adopting what Bob said. Do I have a
Brian?
second? Yes? Oh, sorry.
Can I just get clarification too on, because the other thing that the motion said was that it was gonna be a 1-bedroom, 1-story structure, and the permit, application that I have, has like multiple rooms.
So, yeah, you would determine that, right? We don't do that, you do,
What do you need?
right?
Well, that's Title
Well, I mean,
V.
you guys said it was gonna be a 1-bedroom thing.
Right,
and
but you're the
it's
one
not
that
a
tells us
1-bedroom.
what's a bedroom
It's
and
not-
what's not.
I just want the same clarification,
Okay.
because that's what you said in the motion, but it wasn't in the written decision. It's kind of the same thing that Mr. DeLisi's asking for.
All right, so we're gonna, Bob, add to the motion, it's a 1-bedroom dwelling.
Wait a minute.
That's like 4 bedrooms, what they're proposing.
Hold on, I'm not,
All right, I'm confused right now.
I know nothing about what Andrew just said. If there's going to be a further clarification, I want an opportunity, because if those plans are wrong, then they need to be, I need to look into this. I don't understand what he's even asking at the moment,
Oh, he's asking that it's a 1-bedroom dwelling. That's what
Okay.
we agreed to,
right?
yeah.
The new
I
one.
mean, that's got a 3-car garage on it, and looks like it's got multiple bedrooms.
Is that plan that Andrew is showing, is that the one-bedroom dwelling?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what
This
was
is the
filed with the
proposed
building
house.
permit. Yeah.
This was what was submitted for the building permit.
And how do you determine, Andrew, what consists of bed, how do you decide what is a bedroom?
The room with privacy. That's what the Board of Health determines is a bedroom.
So it's determined by Title V?
Yes.
Okay. As I recall at the meeting when we granted the relief, there was a specific number of bedrooms pre and post.
Right, one and one.
And nothing was changing in terms of the number of bedrooms.
No, just one
It says
bedroom.
here that it is going to be, there's no net increase in the number of dwellings and no increase in the number of bedrooms.
Yes.
So it's one
The
bedroom.
septic would
Yes.
accommodate all.
I remember saying that. Yep.
Okay.
This, I'm just,
So nothing has changed?
What do you read?
this is the minutes.
Okay.
I looked for the
So
minutes
that has
online. I
not,
didn't see them.
that has not changed?
No.
No,
There's
from my
to build
my
time
perspective,
on the
That doesn't look like a one-bedroom or two-bedroom house, though.
What's that?
So,
It doesn't look like a one-bedroom or two-bedroom house. It's got a three-car garage.
Okay,
You see?
you can own 3 cars if
You
you
can be a
want.
you build a retirement
There's a
home,
3-car
one-story
garage
home,
upstairs,
an
but
open
also
Wouldn't
have
that,
another
wouldn't that be signed off?
I
by
mean-
the point of
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's-
He's
and
the
it's-
one that's gonna decide what's a
A-
bedroom.
Andrew, is that a how many bedrooms in this house, in that plan?
There's one bedroom, there's the master bedroom on the first floor with an office, which the Board of Health will consider a bedroom.
So he has to fix that.
Downstairs, there's another bedroom with a bathroom here, a security room, a second kitchen, second living room, the elevator. This has its own garage underneath. And then on the first floor, like I said, master bedroom, other kitchen, other living room, 3-car garage, and then above the 3-car garage is a proposed future room.
But so Andrew, don't you determine by like openings and what components of a room that makes up a bedroom? Like what do we do when, I know we've had this
The building
happen.
code refers to sleeping areas. It doesn't refer to bedrooms. The bedrooms is Title V, it's Board of Health.
So,
All right.
so
So as
you-
long as it's,
That would be
usually it's a definition that's based on privacy. So if you have closets
More closet.
and wide door frames, often in other circumstances, other clients of mine have satisfied the Board of Health that a room that didn't have closets and had wider door frames was not a bedroom.
all right, so
But
as
that's a
long
Board
as
of
the
Health
Board of
issue.
Health
Yeah.
agrees to what this is, Andrew, Gary's in agreement, then,
If we propose one bedroom and it was going to stay to net one bedroom, it needs to be one bedroom.
okay.
And
Yeah.
the
And
septic
that's
would be
clear.
for that
From the
anyway, so
others.
that's out of our league anyway.
Absolutely.
So
That's
it's just
clear
one-
in
No, because that's going to be gone. That other, I see what you're saying, the larger.
There's currently two houses on the structure.
Yeah.
One that is mid-construction
Mhm.
and a small cottage that is actually really nice.
Mhm.
I remember, I tried to buy this property one time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're building a third property. They're gonna keep the back one. They're gonna keep the
Yep.
the
They
one that
rebuilt
looks
the
like it's under
cottage.
construction.
Yeah. They rebuilt the cottage.
But they're keeping.
They rebuilt the cottage.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just,
Yeah, I think I understand exactly what Andrew is saying.
All right,
And
so
if
what
there's a
Bob said
problem.
again,
we're gonna adopt what
The-
Bob said.
adopt what Bob said, and then it's clarified in there.
Prior to occupancy, the existing second structure shall be converted to a non-habitable structure.
Okay? Second?
Second.
Aye.
Oh, we don't have to close this, right?
What are we doing?
You'll have to close the public, well, no, this was a clarification.
This is a clarification. This
Right,
is-
you've always reserved the right to make a clarification.
Go ahead, sorry. Yes, please, we won't be able to hear you.
Roberta Daniels, 18 Old Summer Street. I'm sorry, my voice isn't working, I'm so cold.
Freezing in here.
It is cold.
Whining all night about
Did Mr. DeLisi say that Rick's sister is living in the house?
No, I didn't say she was living in the house now. I said that the idea is for her to live in the house during the construction. That's what
Okay,
they told me.
because the cottage has not been occupied since Rick bought the property, other than for 2 weeks over last Christmas. No one has lived on that, in that property since 2016.
And he's saying that no one is living there now.
I'm sorry?
He's saying that no one is living there now.
Yes, but at your prior hearing, Mr. DeLisi quoted that Eleanor Cuff had lived there. It was not during the time that Rick owned the property. She was not even alive when he purchased the property. She had died a few years prior to that. And he also quoted that there was a young man who lived there, and Rick asked the young man to leave. That property has not been occupied since 2016, except for 2 weeks over the Christmas vacation. I don't understand why suddenly Rick's sister is moving in there now, when it has not been occupied.
I mean, I don't know, people's personal circumstances change, but in any event, they can still only have 2 dwellings on the property. That's basically where it stands right now. If someone's personal circumstances change, then that's really out of our,
Purview.
yeah, I mean, it's just.
I understand that. However, the board's decision was based on the information that you received at that hearing. And it was my understanding when we left the hearing that an occupancy permit would not be given to Mr. Clements without the kitchen being removed from the cottage so that no one would be living there. I am not concerned about Rick's sister living there for the time that the house is being built. My attorney wrote a letter to this board today. Have you had an opportunity to read it?
I read it, yes.
And that's the concern, that when the house is built, the cottage will still be occupied.
It can't, because that's what we're deciding, it's clear in our language what's happening.
So my attorney's not correct that under
81L
Mass
is
law,
what he- yeah.
that he can go to the planning board and ask to.
Yeah, no, I can answer that if you'd like.
Go ahead.
I don't know if Bob wants to answer it. In order for that to occur, each of the 3 what he was alluding to in the letter was, while this is being somehow constructed, at some juncture, we would then move to divide the property into 3 separate lots under an exception to the definition of the word subdivision in the subdivision control law. That exception requires that each of the buildings be standing at the time of the adoption of the subdivision control law in the town of Marshfield. So we're building one building this year, and that building that we're building was not standing at the time of the adoption. It's impossible to do that. But in any event, that's not something that we have any interest in doing. It wasn't anything that was proposed. We've always been clear that what we were trying to do was to convert the existing dwelling into a non-dwelling so that we always had 2 dwellings on the property. And that's all we want.
You agree with Attorney DeLisi about that?
Yeah, he's right. I
Okay.
agree with him.
So then abutters are assured that there are only going to be 3
We're saying
bedrooms
that there's
total.
only 2 dwellings ever to exist on this property.
Okay, and we're assured of that.
That's what our decision says.
So we are assured of that.
I would assume that's what the decision says, so that's how it stands.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we had Bob's thing, someone seconded. Larry?
Aye.
Earl Brown's aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
How you going, guy?
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers abstain.
Okay,
I'm sorry it was so confusing at first. So,
all right.
thanks.
So
We're used to
that's
it
done.
tonight. It's like a
Yeah,
full moon.
disaster in here. All right, so we done now, Nancy? Oh, this person that didn't show up. 2438, Claudi's Kielb, 97 Foster Ave. Move that we continue that till July 9th.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Ryan Murphy, aye?
Jean Lee,
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Second? All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.